Have you ever seen those Raptor coating packs that people use for the bed liners of their utes and wondered, what's the most inconvenient way that I could apply that to a bus? Well, stay tuned because that's what we're about to explore today. So we had this 1987 Toyota Coaster parked up by the beach for a little bit too long, and unfortunately that caused a few small paint cracks to develop into larger holes. So after I ripped those back to bare metal, added some metal brackets to reinforce the metal that was no longer there before stuffing it full of fiberglass, sanding it back and priming it, it was time to paint the bus. Considering we will eventually be heading out to the Australian outback in this rig, we needed some form of protective coating from the elements. That's why we decided to go with Raptor, a thick and porous UV resistant layer of paint that's going to protect us from the weather. I figured the UV resistant paint in the roof would be really beneficial because the top is just fiberglass, so we don't actually have any insulation in the top of the bus, but in the roof lining and in the sides here where the windows aren't, we've got a foil board that's going to keep us pretty well insulated. Now the way I've gone about this paint job is a little bit ridiculous in all honesty. I started off by actually hand rolling this with a paint roller and a paintbrush, and that went about as well as you'd expect it to. And whilst it actually worked pretty averagely okay for some of these flat spots, trying to get the roller in all these grooves and little bits and pieces was just an absolute nightmare. I couldn't afford to buy an air compressor, and I looked for one to hire with no success at all. That is when I stumbled across this thing, the Ozito Sprayer. This is a $70 paint sprayer, and through much trial and error, I believe that I've finally found the perfect ratio of materials, paint thinners, paint hardeners, Raptor liner and tint to make the paint run successfully through this godforsaken spray gun. So with your Raptor kit, crack it open, and you've got 4 bottles of Raptor coat, and you've got your hardener there as well. I've got these little measuring cups that I like to use, and the most important part of these bottles is shaking the crap out of them. So give this a solid shake for about a minute. And what you want to do is you want to crack open the tint or whatever color you're using. For this, we're using 4E9, which is a Toyota beige. And when you're measuring, try get it on level ground, because if you're holding it like on the side at all, you can sometimes get an incorrect measurement. And so, I'm doing 100 mils of tint. And I've only got 75 left. Classic. Fortunately, I've got another tin. So, another 25 mils of that. Beautiful. Making sure to put the lid back on. Yep. And then, open up your Raptor coat. Pouring that in. Put the lid back on. Give it a good solid shake for another 2 minutes. And unfortunately, this isn't a part you can skip. All right. Next thing you're gonna do, open up your hardener. 237 mils, yep. So 237 mils of that stuff. Making sure not to get too much dust in your cap. And then you're going to want to pour that in as well. So that is 237 mils of Raptor coat hardener. And the only problem with this is it doesn't give you that much space to actually shake it up. You want to going to give this another 2 minutes of shaking. So once you've shaken that up, what you want to do is you want to pour that what I like to do is I pour about half into that, and as soon as you see a bit of a glob come out, I'm shaking that quite well. Sometimes it takes a bit of effort to get all the Raptor coat not to be so like globby and gluey. And so what I do now is I get about 50 mils of reducer or paint thinner, stir that up in here, and then I actually put that in here with the other half of Raptor coat, pour that into there and give that a good shake. And what that does is mixes up the last little bit, and it helps you get the remaining little bits of Raptor coat that's stuck to the inside of the bottle out of there, so you can maximize the amount of paint that you're putting into the gun. And what we do is pour that back into there. Sometimes I use this last little bit that's left in the bottle to put that back into a cup, and then once I've done spraying, I just go up and touch up the little bits with a little paintbrush. So yeah, okay, well, now it's time to have a crack at painting this stuff, eh? So I'm going to do a light layer up the top just to cover the rest of that stuff, and then see if we can cover up these little, give a little second layer to the stuff in here where the primer's still coming through. And keep in mind it gets a bit globby when you first start spraying, so start off by spraying on the window here. Now, not sure if you can see this or not. Still got a little bit of paint left. I have noticed that there's a few little dry streaks running through here. I think because when I did this last time, I came in on an angle like that and then went back on an angle like that. So now I try and stay as close to the, you know, at a separate distance as I can to the bus itself. And so I'm just gonna, like, this stuff's pretty forgiving. So what you can do is you can just sort of stand a little bit further back, get a little bit of a wide spatter on it, and it should turn out really nice. So let's give this a go, just try to tidy up this little bit here. Well, I'm pretty happy with that so far. All right, so we got a little bit of paint left. I'm gonna have a crack at this top bit, just another small rough layer over the top there. See, we're here, we're out of paint, so I think we got some pretty good coverage from that pot. Let's have a look. Sometimes you have to stand a bit further back to see how it looks. Okay, let's mix up another pot and have another go. Done spraying, what you want to do is when you want to clean out the spray, especially if you're going to use it again, otherwise they clog up really easily and you can't use them again, you have to go get a new one. The best way to clean it is just to put some paint thinner in this, make sure that it's air locked onto here, and just spray it. Spray all that paint thinners through. Another thing that you want to keep an eye on is paint tends to dry quite a bit in here. And then also this little nozzle here that when you turn on, opens up. And so that's where the air comes from that it sucks through. So you want to make sure that that is open and doesn't have any paint sitting on it. That's going to affect air coming through. Otherwise you will get those splotchy spots coming through again. You don't normally need to worry about this unless you go like a day or two without painting and then the paint gets a chance to dry inside here. So I usually just holding it up like that, clearing out the paint from in there, and taking apart this front nozzle here, being careful not to let it fall apart. Put that down, and you just get something inside there. Pop that off. And there are different nozzle attachments for this. For this one in particular, I've actually drilled that out a little bit so that the Raptor coat, being a little bit more thick and porous paint, can actually make it through that little hole there. And then another thing I like to do is just run this on the inside of these 4 little holes on the inside there. That's going to focus. Yeah, I just poke it in there, make sure that there's no paint flakes, and then run some more thinners through that to make sure that that's all being cleared out as necessary. As you can see as well, as you start to get to the bottom of the jar, it starts to suck up half paint, half air, and it gives you that. So as soon as that starts to happen, stop painting. And if you notice that it's starting to lose pressure, that's probably due to the battery. So grab a new battery, slide it on, and that pressure will re-engage, and you'll be able to get a nice even tone throughout the rest of your paint job. Now, other tips for cleaning this gun is you just want to make sure that all the paint out of there is completely gone. So I usually just have paint thinner sitting in the bottom of that. And then another thing that you can do is take this off completely, and it comes with a little nozzle cleaning brush, so you just run that up through there. And I usually sit this in paint thinners for 10-20 minutes just to make sure that all those little flaky bits come out. Now, partway through the spraying job, sometimes you just need to wipe your finger along this and make sure that there's no buildup of paint covering this hole that your paint's coming out of. Other than that, you should be good to go. Another thing that you don't want to do is when you initially start off spraying, as you can see here, I started up and it initially sprays out quite a globby amount. So I try to start it off by spraying on the paper somewhere where I've wrapped over the windows, and then moving on to where I'm wanting to spray after it's sort of settled down a little bit. But this happens when you turn it on and when you turn it off. So yeah, keep that in mind, otherwise you'll get these big globby spots that you don't really want. Another thing with this sprayer is you need to angle this for whichever direction that you're painting. So as you can see, if you're spraying down on the roof, you want it angled down like that so that the paint's all sort of sitting at the bottom of the tin. If you're spraying up, you want it face like that so that it can pull it up. Otherwise there'll be no paint for it to suck through, and you'll start to get these big spatters and it won't turn out very nice. So there you have it, how to Raptor coat a bus with a $70 paint sprayer. Now, is this something that I'd recommend for something of this scale? Probably not, to be completely honest. It was a little bit tricky at times to get this to work, and I think we actually ended up using about 18 litres of paint. So it turned out to be a lot more than we initially bargained for, but I think this thing put the paint on a little bit thicker than an air compressor might have. And in saying that, if I had the ability to buy an air compressor or even hire one, I absolutely would have, but it just wasn't something that was in the budget for this job. So a little bit unfortunate. I would absolutely recommend this for smaller touch-up jobs such as the bumper bar, the rear bar, or anything like that. I got a little bit of respray on this, so I'm going to be taking that off at some point and respraying those black at some point. So yeah, for smaller jobs, absolutely, but for something of this scale, I probably wouldn't do it again, to be honest. It was a bit much. So all in all, I believe that I have sprayed this bus for under 2,500 Australian dollars, which I think is pretty good. Most of that was spent on Raptor coat, but some of it was on masking tape, all the other little things that I had to do to get this looking the way it is now. So I'm happy with it. It's not perfect, but it's significantly better than rolling it on. So I've got a bit of a smoother texture, believe it or not, than I did with the roller. It took me way too long to hand paint it on, but I think it's absolutely worth it. So that's what she looks like now. It's got clear lacquer all over it, and that's pretty obvious that that's our little water thing. Put some fresh paint on the trims of the tail lights. We got a new camera because water sort of destroyed that one last time, so that was fun. These mirrors are looking a lot less rusty than they used to. Front grill's looking tidy. Came out really nice, I'm really happy with that. And previous videos, I made a bit of a tutorial on how we managed to combat some of the rust on this beast, because there was a big patch underneath both of these roof racks here, which I had to cut all out and fill in with fiberglass. So if you want to check out the processes and how I fixed that, then you can check out that video here. Regardless, everything's linked down in the bio below. And yeah, let us know what you think of the paint job and if this is something that you would do yourself. So I'm very stoked to say that the exterior of the bus is almost done. So now it's time to start on the interior. Starting with this roof console that I got to rebuild out of wood that hasn't been eaten by ants, because not that they came back, but I think that was the first thing that they ate, so woo! So yeah, got to put the solar panel on the roof, put this roof cage back on once I've given it a clean up, and put a new light bar on the front of it. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot. If you like this shirt that I've been wearing, the one with the skateboarding dinosaur on it, this is my paint shirt. This is a prototype of this tattoo that I got tattooed on myself. If you like this design and you want to support the channel, then check this out. So I got these shirts made, and they have the Raptor design riding a skateboard embroidered on the front of it. I think it's pretty cool. And on the back, it's got a reflective "Are we having fun yet?" It's your perfect festival t-shirt, or you can cover it in paint like me. But yeah, if you want to support the channel, these will be up on my Instagram store or on my website at mahimedia.au. So check it out and cop one, because I've only got 4 in each size and they come in a whole bunch of different colors. I think they're really cool. So if you like it and you want to support the silly things that I do, head along to the website and go grab yourself one.